This is my favorite place to be in our living room slash kitchen slash reading nook. The reading nook is my favorite spot. I thought I would take a calm Sunday off for myself, and I did for the most part. But I got this idea, actually this urge to rearrange my books. We have a shared little bookshelf at my school, and I always like to deposit books there. So about twice a year I'll go through the books that we have at home, and the ones that aren't attached to me I give away, because why hold on to them? You know, I don't want to say that books are trash, but you know, the saying, one man's trash, another one's treasure. So just because I didn't like the book doesn't mean that it'll be like this lifelong joy to somebody else. So today I grabbed all of our best spooky, horror, thriller books that we got, and I also grabbed a few autumnal books. So books that aren't, you know, they are a mystery, they are in the genre somewhere, but they're not quite a book to read for October, or books that are just ridiculously cozy to read and just make you feel like they're giving you a big hug. And those are autumnal books to me. So I'm going to share the autumn books first, the October slash spooky slash Halloween books second, aka last. First I'm going to light my favorite candle, which is this butterscotch coffee candle. All right, so we got the book vibes going. We got our candle lit. Smells amazing. Oh, and my tea. Gotta have the tea. Okay, so as I said, autumnal books come first, and autumn in general for me comes first anyway. So we got The Body in the Library by the one and only Agatha Miss Christie. The back of the book I love even more because it's very retro. This book isn't my favorite one of hers, but it's an Agatha Christie, so you can't go wrong with it. It's really great. I got this, I got this from Typewriter Books in Edinburgh, Scotland, and they always stamp their, I love it. It adds like that little touch that I just love about small owned bookstores, and it gives me like, I know the movie name. Tom Hanks, Meg Ryan. You've Got Mail. I don't know why that took me so long. It was in my brain, just didn't want to come out. Yeah, it reminds me of You Got Mail. And yeah, just nothing better than a small little bookshop. And when you're reading that book that you got in that small little bookshop, it reminds you of being in that bookshop, and the smells and the quirkiness and the individuality, just it all comes, and it's good. It's good stuff. So another Agatha Christie, Black Coffee. I kind of got into this. I didn't finish it, but it was definitely giving off autumn vibes. I don't know, I just don't think I was in like the right place to read it. I think I was actually trying to read this book, I think in February, and it just wasn't really vibing with me, you know what I mean? So I'm gonna give this another go in autumn, because I'm highly suspicious that this is an autumn vibes type of book. Next, this is On Writing by Stephen King. So this is a memoir, one of his 2 memoirs. I also have Danse Macabre, but I loaned that book to my father-in-law. So he has that one. Can't show it to you, but I'm telling you, so it's good enough. That's also a great autumn read, because it's not fiction, so it's a real life story that he's telling you about his life, and it's definitely more of an autumnal read for me because you're not gonna get scared by it. This is Jane Eyre, and this probably scared the pants off of people when it first came out. But it's definitely not a scary read to us today. It's more of just like, when was this? Edwardian? Victorian. One of those. I think it's, no. Victorian. It's a Gothic. It's a Gothic. So, yeah, Victorian. Victorian Gothic, there you go. It's just fantastic. I actually think I stole this book. Was it stealing? I don't know. I don't think I stole the book. It's just, okay, so I went to this alternative high school, and there was very few of us, and, you know, we were the problem kids. We were the ones who, you know, had learning difficulties, who had difficult family backgrounds, difficult upbringings, you know, a few scuffs here and there with the law, not myself in particular. I was on the learning disability side, but we had this small library, which most books were given to us by the Salvation Army. And if you went to an alternative high school in America, you know exactly what I mean by nobody was reading those books. So I think I did this book a favor by taking it and never giving it back. So there you go. I don't steal, don't want to make you guys think that, but yeah, this is one of my most beloved books, and I'm planning on keeping this same exact book until I'm good and dead in the grave, so it's mine. Next is Ex Libris. This is one of my favorite books, and I love reading it in the autumn. I actually bought it when I was 16 in the autumn, and maybe that's why it reminds me of autumn, because that's when I was reading it in the park at my parents', you know, home where I grew up, and it's just, it's such a comfortable book. It says Confessions of a Common Reader, and if you are a serial reader, if you read 3 books a month or more, then this is the book for you. You're gonna relate to it so much. And then Afterwhiles, this is like my pride and joy of a book, because I mean, just look at how beautiful this book is. I mean, come on. Look at how old the pages are. It's like, yeah, it's so good. Yeah, it was published 1892, and this is the original edition. So this book is literally from 1892, and it's just fan-freaking-tastic. So I only look through it about twice a year, just because I really want to preserve this book as much as I can. And I definitely, when I'm reading, I definitely don't have any liquids around me, like, whatsoever. Yeah, whatever people, because I'm certain it wasn't just one person's book through all that time. I'm sure that the people who have owned this book loved it just as much as I did, because it is in such good condition. It is so well preserved. So this is my mark on it. I wrote my name in there because I am possessive with books that I adore. So this is forever mine and my future family's. This is the original sticker, as you can see. And then here is the dedication to his mother Elizabeth, and then here you can see this old school little sheet paper, and that's his like author's photograph. That's him. That's James Whitcomb Riley. You know, fun fact, James Dean was a huge fan of this poet, so if you're a James Dean fan, then check this out. So just 3 more books that give me that autumn feel and that I love reading in the autumn. So 2 Patti Smith books. I had a 3rd Patti Smith book, but I have no idea where it went. So I had 2 copies of her, I guess, poems? I guess, I wouldn't really know what to call it. Wool Gathering. And I gave one of the copies to a friend, and then the second copy, I have no idea where the heck it is. I think it might be at my parents' place. I hope. I'll have to call my mom later. So I have these two Patti Smith books. One is Devotion, and then the other is M Train. Now again, is anything particularly about autumn or about anything spooky? No, not at all. It's just, it's such a comfortable... I think an almost crash happened. So yeah, not about autumn, nothing even remotely, but it's such a comfortable read. And I mean, Patti Smith, like, don't even get me started on Patti Smith. She is one of my absolute favorite people. And yeah, so if you like punk, if you like poetry, if you like all that stuff, just read Patti Smith on, you know, a late September evening and just enjoy yourself. All right, last but not least for autumn is Weird Michigan, which is like, have you seen the movie Coraline? Because if you have not, what is wrong with you? But Coraline is such a Michigan-y movie. I live for that movie because that's how I felt like as a child. I felt like Coraline. A lot of Michigan kids did and do. And if you want to know why people from Michigan are Michigan-y, then just watch that movie or read this book because, yeah, we're quite odd. This book spans, it used to be a magazine. I think it originally started with Weird New Jersey, and then the creators just kept going. Yeah, so there's local legends, ancient mysteries, fabled people and places, unexplained phenomena, one of my faves, bizarre beasts like the Michigan Dog Man. Then there's local notables, which is like, they're just kooky people, but it's not like, yeah. Personalized properties, so it's kooky people who don't seem very kooky, but then they have like an Addams Family house. Roadside oddities, that's roads less traveled, haunted Michigan, cemetery safari, abandoned in Michigan. So this kind of borders onto an October spooky read as well. I would say this is definitely like a late September read through. You know, if you want something spooky and you want to get into the mood in September, like how I do, even though it's August, then just read through this. I actually got this in July and it was giving me all the spooky vibes in July, so that was fun. Don't know how weird this is gonna look. I am all the way down here. Not the comfiest, but we'll make it work. So, this is the bookshelf for the reading nook. So I am going to swap out all the art books for the spooky books is essentially what I'm doing. So this is a seasonal bookshelf. I'm going to leave these two here and this one here. This is the Best of Punk magazine. And this is the Grand Medieval Bestiary and the Art of Tim Burton. I don't really think I need to explain why I'm keeping those. I would say that the Grand Medieval Bestiary is more of just an autumn vibe, because it kind of makes you feel like you're like going back to your semester in Hogwarts and you're like brushing up on your medieval bestiary homework, like, you know what I mean? So yeah, and the Hanukkah, obviously it's very far from Hanukkah. It's so gorgeous that I like to keep it out all year round. But I'm gonna find a new home for that little guy somewhere else in the apartment, and I'm gonna spookify this whole thing up. So the books that I just showed, the autumn books, I'm gonna throw them onto here, and then I will sit back down comfortably on my cushiony little reading nook chair and then show you the Halloween spooky books. The Book of Symbols by Tashin, and it's thick. Like, look at this big boy. This is just, you know, art history mixed with the occult. Wait, let me find that guy again. Look at this mushroom. Proud of him. Yeah, this is a good one, and I love all the little strings. Yeah. Are two of the books I read as children that scared the daylights out of me. So this is The Mysteries of Harris Burdick. Oh, this didn't scare me. This I thought was just badass. And Just Dessert. She lowered the knife and it grew even brighter. This one gave me nightmares. So, I mean, I think the whole thing of like, so there's people who are afraid of clowns, and if they see one in person, then they're like a little wigged out. And then there's people who see nuns, and it depends. Like, obviously, a person is not going to scare me. I'm not afraid of clowns, by the way, even if I see a clown in person, unless it's like purposefully designed as a scary clown, and I see it in person, like in a haunted house, it'll scare me. But it's not to that degree. Like, it's obviously not a phobia, but if I see like nuns in a movie or in an illustration and it's creepy, it gets to a special place down inside where you know what I mean? No nun phobia. I don't even think that's a real thing. At least I hope it's not, because that's just one rude, and just be a nicer person, I guess. Don't be afraid of nuns. But yeah, this image really scared me as a kid, and that's all I'll get into that. So the 7 chairs, the 5th one ended up in France. So I guess that's like implying it's the Notre Dame or something. Yeah, no, these illustrations and the simple, you know, 1 to 2 sentences just really got my imagination going as a kid, which wasn't a hard thing to do in the first place. But yeah, thanks, Mysteries of Harris Burdick, you made me afraid of fictional nuns. Next is, this is actually my husband's childhood book, but I grew up reading it all the time in my house as well as in school. And this is I Spy Spooky Night, a book of picture riddles, of course. And it's just, it sends you into this magical world. And it's just so much fun. I love looking through this and challenging myself, and, you know, or not challenging myself, because sometimes it's really easy, sometimes it's not. But just looking through it, it's just, it brings joy. Horror cinema. We got this book not too long ago. Tashin had a sale online, and this is the back. This is the front. It's glorious. And yeah, you get like all of these tidbits. You know, I am horror obsessed. If there is a horror movie that I have not seen that is a classic, I am quite shocked. And then I go home and I immediately put it on and watch it, because I'm like, how could I have not seen that movie? How could I have not heard of it? Because I do a lot of horror investigation, especially when it comes to media, books, movies. I've definitely seen a lot more horror movies than I've read horror books. It's just quicker to watch a horror movie, and there's so many good ones that it's, you know, you have to dedicate yourself to a book, which I love doing. But you know, I think in a human being's life, I think it's just granted that we're going to see a lot more movies than we're going to be able to read books, just on a time scale. If you know the website Letterboxd, I've logged in about 2,000 movies that I've seen from my furthest memory to today. And I think it said like 70% of the movies are horror related or spooky or thriller or, you know, in that vein. So I'm quite proud of myself. I was really happy to see that little tidbit. So yeah, this is just an amazing and beautiful book to look at. And what we like to do on in October is we make a list of movies, of horror movies to watch every single day, and we're gonna spice it up a little bit this year. We're going, instead of sticking to it like a to-do list, which is daunting. I mean, I can only function on to-do lists basically, but they do get boring and they do get daunting, and for something to be more enjoyable, it has to be more spontaneous for us. And so yeah, we're going to put all of the horror titles into like some kind of jar or cup or bag, whatever hat, and that day we're just going to pull out one of the strips of paper, and then that will be the movie that we watch. But what we have done in the past, like during quarantine, is that we would take something like this here and we would just open it, and then it's Dracula, so then we would just watch Dracula. So, you know, it serves a lot of purposes, this book. Pan's Labyrinth. I got this as a Christmas present, and I'm obsessed with Guillermo del Toro. Yeah, Merry Christmas to my favorite person in the world, from Danny. And yeah, so it was definitely a Christmas book. But it is spooky. It's literally Pan's Labyrinth, written into a fairy tale form. So it's basically the screenplay, but novelized, and the illustrations are just gorgeous, like absolutely gorgeous. And then this is what it looks like when you take off the dust cover. This is the front, and this is the back. El laberinto del fauno. It's fantastic. If you have not seen Pan's Labyrinth, do me a favor and watch it in Spanish, because I feel like it's just blasphemous to not watch it in Spanish. I don't care if you don't like subtitles. So H.P. Lovecraft, our favorite, most controversial horror writers. Where would we be without him? How much do we actually praise him? I will actually be doing a one of my makeup book reviews with H.P. Lovecraft, because I got a lot to say about this guy. Okay, like he was yeah, he was special in bad ways and not so bad ways, but not necessarily good ways. And lastly, of the like coffee table books, like the really highly decorated hardcover big books that I have, is this Symbols of the Occult. It's pretty good. I was actually expecting more out of it. I thought like it was going to be more deep, but it goes through like the topics really quick. I mean, it's not that thick of a book. I would have liked it to be thicker, like my smoothies. But it is fascinating nonetheless, so this is a good read if you are more on the light reader side with academia and the occult, or if you are a 101 beginner and you're starting off on reading stuff like this, then this is like the perfect way to start that off. I'm currently reading A Tomb with a View by Peter Ross. I picked this book up in Edinburgh, Scotland. We went to see a show, like an exhibition, at the National Museum in Edinburgh, and it was called A Matter of Death and Life. And it was great. It was fascinating. I saw the real skeleton of William Burke, or was it William Hare? No, Hare got away. Pretty sure it was William Burke. I'll write down the real name. One of the Williams, one of the first serial killers of the UK. The reason why the hanging skeleton is a staple in every medical school, and you know, just the idea of a skeleton, a full skeleton being on display tracks back to that man and those two men. This has nothing to do with them, but they did have a lot of really good books about William Burke and William Hare at the museum, but all we had were our backpacks and tote bags, so I only got one book to save space. But there was really fascinating stories about those two guys, so I would also say check those out. Tomb of the View is just I'm loving it so much. It's my perfect read to transition from summer into what I believe is autumn, which is basically middle of August. I wish that the first day of fall was middle of August. I do think summer goes on for way too long and that fall does not go on for too long, for as long as it should. Yeah, this explores graveyards in England and the UK in general, and about how we connect with graveyards. A lot of people have fear of graveyards. A lot of people don't like to go. People don't see beauty in graveyards. I do. I think it might be a familial thing. My mother herself was raised in a cemetery. My great-grandfather was a groundskeeper at the Santa Ynez Cemetery in Chile, and you know, it was old school. So they lived in this fairly big home with lots of people in the family. Their backyard was a cemetery, you know, like the house was on the cemetery grounds back then. Today, groundskeepers obviously just rock up in their car and tend the cemetery, but the cemetery was so old school that that was just the way it was done. So I think maybe that's where my background on love of cemeteries comes from. And if you don't love cemeteries, but you do like the whole spooky vibe, I do recommend to go to a cemetery and find a tree, put down a blanket, have some snacks, and read a book. I mean, a lot of people think that is absolutely ridiculous, and some people even think it's disrespectful, but I mean, most of the people in certain cemeteries, if you can look up a cemetery where people have been buried there for hundreds of years, then even better, because it is super rare if family, you know, great-great-great-grandchildren go to the cemetery on a regular basis to pay their respects. It kind of fizzles out by that point. So that's the way that I see it, is that, you know, I'm keeping them company and just chilling. So this is just a great book, and it's also like a guide. So I'm so excited, I'm stuttering. There's already 2 cemeteries in this book that I have written down in my phone and have researched on, because I'm like, I'm going there next time I go to Scotland or next time I go to England. Mary Shelley's Frankenstein and H.G. Wells' The War of the Worlds. They're classics because they're classics. I'm not even gonna say anything about them. I did do a video on Frankenstein, so do check that out. Yeah, just read them. I have nothing else to say. They speak for themselves. Next, I am planning on reading this gigantic book. It is just gargantuan, and I love that about it. And this thing was $10 for this giant of a book. When did I buy this book? Books are getting more and more expensive, guys. I'm so surprised that this book was only $10. Anyway, this book has been on the back burner because of time. I've been really wanting to read it in the spooky season. I think that this book is going to have to be shelved for at least next year, because next year I'm finally going to have an autumn where I don't have to be in school and I can just be as introverted as I want to be and just read a book of this stature. It sounds like heaven. So this is The Luminaries by Eleanor Catton. It is 1866 and Walter Moody has come to make his fortune upon the New Zealand goldfields. On the night of his arrival, he stumbles across a tense gathering of 12 local men who have met in secret to discuss a series of unsolved crimes. A network of fates and fortunes that is as complex and exquisitely patterned as the night sky. And you know what? I love a good book that is so deep that there is a map, J.R.R. Tolkien vibes, and a character chart. So there's so many characters in this book that you have a character chart, which is very Tolstoy. Very Anna Karenina. And this is a star map, and apparently it goes by the star maps of the actual time. So there's some parts of the book where the star maps and the astrological significance that gets involved with these characters' lives and in the story, that they're incorrect to us today, but were accurate at the time of New Zealand in 1866. So yeah, unfortunately I have to wait until next year for this, but it's such a beautiful book. I love the spine, so this is definitely going on to our spooky bookshelf. So I have been collecting these Penguin modern classics. They're £1 each. They're probably a little bit more expensive now because of inflation. 470 forints. I got most of these books in the past 2 years, and there's 50 books, like 50 individual books. So you spend 50 bucks, about 50 bucks altogether, and these are classics. So these are short stories by some of your most beloved authors like Daphne du Maurier, Carson McCullers, Lenora Carrington, Shirley Jackson. These are really great collections. And the Tiffany blue, like, yeah, it's not a spooky color, but it's Tiffany blue, so there's that. And another super satisfying aspect to these books is that they're all numbered on the spine, and I like to number them. It makes me happy. So Shirley Jackson, The Missing Girl, and so each book has about 3 to 4 short stories in them. So it starts with The Missing Girl, which is like, all of these stories are like, you know, up there with original Twilight Zone series. The Missing Girl, Journey with a Lady, and Nightmare. It just blows you out of the water. Daphne du Maurier, she's best known for Rebecca, and Shirley Jackson is best known for not House on Haunted Hill. The Haunting was based on one of her stories, The Haunting of Bly Manor. What was the other one? We Have Always Lived in the Castle, you know, some great stuff. The Haunted Boy by Carson McCullers was fantastic. And the other two, The Sojourner and A Domestic Dilemma, those weren't spooky, but so sometimes the other short stories won't really hit the nail on the head, but you can just skip those. These are great to read right as soon as you wake up in the morning with your cup of coffee or your tea or whatever you have, and you can read the whole thing before you finish your beverage, so that's pretty fun. Next is Halloween Party, which is, of course, Agatha Christie. It's a Poirot. This is my husband's book, The Zombie Survival Guide. I honestly have not read this because I'm not the biggest zombie fan, but this is really fun to look at, and I like the option of, you know, friends or family over, when they look at the spooky bookshelf and they want to grab a book to read. You know, I like to give people options. This bookshelf is not just for myself and for my husband. This is for anybody who is company in our home. So somebody might find this interesting. You know, you never know. Next is Franz Kafka, The Trial. I had to read this in the fall for a class of mine, and it is surreal. It is just fantastic. It's probably one of my favorite Kafka stories. I think it's better than Metamorphosis. The Trial. Please read it. Please do. And if you are someone who has dealt with bureaucracy on a level of you are a foreigner in a host country, or if you are immigrating, going through that process, this book is going to relate to you so much and so many levels. And yeah, The Trial. It's also a pretty good movie with Anthony Perkins. So Agatha Christie, Murder on the Orient Express. I would say that this could also be a really good Christmas read for people like me who like to read spooks during the Christmas season. But if you don't like reading spooky stories during the Christmas season, then you could also read it in the fall. It works both ways. Oscar Wilde, The Picture of Dorian Gray. I am also currently reading this one. Oh, there's my bookmark. I am also currently reading this one, and it is amazing. It's a little dusty. I've been reading more of A Tomb of the View than I have been reading this one. Yeah, so this is also a nightstand book. A Clockwork Orange. Really great, and it's fun to compare it with the movie, the classic movie. I just love the cover. I'm like zoning out into the cover. It's so Halloween-y. You can't get any more Halloween-y than this cover. All right, some classics: Dracula and the Selected Works of Edgar Allan Poe. Again, classics for a reason. Just read them. They speak for themselves. That's all I gotta say about those guys. The Art of Tim Burton is just like a retrospective, that big art book that I showed you on the spooky bookshelf. And then we have The Melancholy Death of Oyster Boy and Other Stories by Tim Burton. Now I am going to be dressing up as Sally Skellington for Halloween, and my husband is going to be Jack Skellington, the Pumpkin King. And so I'm not going to talk at all about this book or the Art of Tim Burton, because I am going to be doing some Sally Skellington makeup tries in a video and see what look I like the best, you know, try to feel it out, because blue makeup is so hard to do and I haven't had a lot of practice with it. So I think it would be a fun video to do, you know, practice Sally Skellington makeup and just talk about Tim Burton. So look forward to that if you're a Tim Burton fan like ourselves. And then lastly, this is a book that I cannot read because it's in Hungarian. I can read signs, I can read important things, I can speak important things, I know how to survive in this country, but I can't just full out read a Hungarian book. Hungarian is one of the most difficult languages in the world to fully understand, to fully speak on a native level is just one of the most difficult things to do, and it's a very rare thing to do. So this book is called Nocturne, and I have no idea. My husband highly recommends it. It's more so a comic book. I mean, I've been looking through it, and it gives you the chills. It gives you the spooks. You don't really need to know Hungarian. I mean, if you're a fan of comic book art, especially more abstract comic book art, then you can just read through this and still get like a little chill down your little spine and just enjoy the visuals. It's a very gorgeous book, all black and white. And I mean, I love it. And apparently the story is really amazing. That is the end of my autumn spooky book Halloween read suggestion list. That was a mouthful. This video was so much fun to make. I love talking about books. And I hope you like listening about books. I hope you got some really great recommendations. And let me know if you have read any of these books or if you are planning on getting any of these books. I like to talk about books, guys, so please reach out to me. Reach out to me on Instagram, Beauty in the Brains, and also on TikTok. And I will see you next time. Bye!